game this Sunday night. What is going on with Micah Parsons?
Well, the week is not off to a good start, Greeny, because Micah Parsons didn't practice yesterday. They're coming off a bye week, and if he's not practicing after a bye week getting ready for Sunday night, maybe they're engaging in a little bit of gamesmanship. And if he doesn't practice today, I don't think he'll be able to play on Sunday night. But the fact that he was not there yesterday is not a good sign for his availability Sunday night against San Francisco.
Could have a bye week and still wind up being in the center of the most conversation of anyone, and that is because their owner and their general manager have radio shows on Tuesday, and they're both the same person, so it's all one show. Jerry Jones, in that conversation, pointed a critical finger at his own coaching staff, and then Mike McCarthy yesterday was forced to respond. We'll play you both of those.
The types of things that we all think we should be looking at is, well, we're designing bad plays or we're designing bad concepts. The facts are that there's some of that, but there's also some of execution. There's some of the talent. I like our talent.
I talk to Jerry all the time. You know, we've had time to go through the self-scout, so I can't really. I didn't see the comments specifically, so but I don't think we have bad concepts and bad plays. But I'll go back and check. We're not where we want to be. I mean, that's clearly, and it ultimately is my responsibility, and I'm fully aware of that. But, you know, we are very diligent.
Dan, your reaction?
I have never heard a front office person in my 20 or so years being associated with the NFL talk about publicly their head coach that was employed the way that Jerry Jones did Mike McCarthy. To publicly minimize, to publicly belittle, to publicly degrade the head coach that you hired and his football intellect, I've never seen when it comes to an employee before. And if you want to see everything that's wrong with the Cowboys, watch what's happened unfold in the last 48 hours publicly with Jerry Jones's comments. To say that about the coach that has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the dude that you hired, I've never seen a front office member, GM or owner do that before.
Absolutely. He just said our offense sucks. We have the talent, but our offense sucks. So the guy that's designing the offense, our head coach, is not doing his job. And then you listen to Mike McCarthy and he says, I haven't seen the comments. He hasn't seen the comments because he's in offensive staff meetings trying to figure out how to defeat the San Francisco 49ers. That's time away from his family and doing all of these things that coaches do to be able to win a football game. And that's the first question he has to answer.
Imagine being Mike McCarthy standing at that podium as you have to get ready for Kyle Shanahan in a massive game, and you have to publicly defend your ability to coach football. X's and O's to a guy that doesn't know X's and O's. Respectfully, Jerry Jones, you don't know football like that. I want you to draw up the dagger concept and tell me how it should get read out versus cover 2 versus cover 3. What are we talking about? Imagine being Mike McCarthy and having to defend that game week.
I actually felt sorry for him that one moment in that soundbite where he said, like, I don't think we're designing.
It's on his body language
here.
too, Greeny.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I guess I'll go back and check.
Yeah.
I mean, what exactly is it he's supposed to say? You know, a long time ago when I first started covering football, someone said something very smart to me. He said, every single offensive play is designed to score a touchdown. There's not one offensive play that we put it together on the whiteboard, we work everything up, and we say, okay, gentlemen, if this goes exactly right, it's a loss of 2. There's like not one play. Every single play is designed for that. There are a million variables that then go into it, right? There's what does the defense do? How do we execute it? All those sorts of things. But the idea that we're designing bad plays is the fact that the coach has to defend that actually made me feel uncomfortable for him.
Well, it's weird because as an owner, your job is to create an environment for your coaching staff and the players to thrive in. And that's just not the case when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. There's so much dysfunction across the board. And then when I look at a guy like Mike McCarthy, it's okay to show your head coach respect. Like you just mentioned, Dio, to belittle him in front of the world like he just did, talking about his plays. And we're talking about a guy who won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Granted, you had Aaron Rodgers.
Acumen.
That's what I'm saying.
Football acumen, he belittled.
Like you can't do that in the public light. And I think it also explains why the Dallas Cowboys have not been to a Super Bowl or NFC Championship game since the mid-90s.
Look, this is one comment that he's making, but look at the larger body of work over the season. Mike McCarthy is allowed to go into this season in the last year of his contract. Numerous Dallas Cowboys are headed into the last year of their contract. They wait to sign CeeDee Lamb this summer. They wait to sign Dak so that they don't get the benefit of the cap flexibility and the lower cost to go add other notable free agents like Derrick Henry, who they say couldn't fit into their system, which is hard to imagine. So this is just
Fix your system.
one comment. This is a continuation of putting the coach in a difficult position all year long. So here's another difficult spot for Mike McCarthy in a week where you're getting ready for a critical game against the 49ers on Sunday night. Have fun with that, Mike
Shefty,
McCarthy.
I'm going to say this as respectful as I can say it. Somebody around Jerry Jones that has a backbone need to tell Jerry to be quiet. Because at this point, it's damage control. Everything that comes out of Jerry's mouth is damaging that organization from winning football, in my opinion.
Who's the adult in the building right now? Could you imagine being Dak Prescott? Going, what are we? I got to get ready for a San Francisco defense that's playing really good, and we're dealing with
You mean their
this?
kryptonite? You mean the Dallas Cowboys' kryptonite?
The
Who
defense
they
is
struggled
good.
with the last 3 or 4 years.
We got to deal. Now, let's be clear. I agree with some of the thoughts that Jerry shares, that their offense sometimes is not good play calls. We've talked about that. I've shown it. So I agree with that.
You just don't be that
You don't
transparent.
publicly do that to your head coach. Because now how does your head coach walk into a room and say, this is the plan that's going to win us the game?
And he
The
also
players
said-
are
How
paying
does
attention.
players respect that head coach when he's getting in front of those players trying to say certain things and get those guys to buy in too?
And I think the fact that he put the comment in, I like our talent.
Yeah.
As a general manager, to talk about the coaching and then say, I like our talent. I'm doing my job, baby.
And
I don't
again,
know around me, but I'm doing my job.
the Cowboys, the number one reason they put the expectations realistically were for this football team, that's on the people who put the football team together. The talent makeup. They didn't spend any money this offseason. They got the extensions done to CeeDee and Dak. It saved $20 million. It was too late, so they couldn't use that $20 million.
The weekend, Sunday night. Cowboys out west to play the 49ers. It has been, to say the least, a disappointment for Dak and the Cowboys offense this year. He has back-to-back game with multiple picks. He's never done that in 3 straight games in his entire career. His completion percentage, 63%, his lowest since his second year in the league. Last year, he completed just under 70% of his throws. His total QBR this year, 48.9. That would be the lowest mark for a season in his career. He's currently 23rd among 31 qualified quarterbacks in that stat. Here's Dak with a self-assessment headed to San Francisco.
I'd say I've played average, and average isn't good enough right now by any means. I mean, it's never been good enough for me, so I can't say that I've been happy or excited after any of these games that I've played. I can just play better for sure, and preparing to.
All right, so and this has been, to top it all off, RC, his house of horrors, right? I mean, Dak against what we have seen from the 49ers against the Cowboys the last few years has been very painful for those who like the Dallas Cowboys. Can he turn that around this Sunday night? Can Dak be the reason the Cowboys pull off a win that would surprise a lot of people?
No, Dak absolutely can. We've seen Dak Prescott play at an MVP level, and I love the sense of accountability that he has and the way that he's played this season, but he's wrong. He's played below average. Right? Because your average doesn't get to be the average of the rest of the players in the league. Your average is the average that's taken from a quarterback who's the highest paid player that's ever touched an NFL field. And outside of maybe the Cleveland Browns game earlier on in the season and also the Pittsburgh Steelers game where I felt Dak was at his best, he's been below the line for his play. He's in some senses been the reason that this offense hasn't moved the ball. And Dak Prescott can't be that. I said a few Fridays ago on this show, if they want to win games, Dak Prescott has to play at an MVP level. He hasn't been close to that, and I believe that this team feels it. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys as a whole, we knew that this roster wasn't up to snuff to compete in the NFC, but what we've seen from this team has been flat out embarrassing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we can talk about Dak all we want, but Teddy, the reality is it has been the defense. In their 3 losses this year, they're giving up well over 200 yards rushing per game, and now they're going in there. I know Christian McCaffrey isn't playing, but this is sort of where it all begins, right? The San Francisco offense was the first of these great running offenses. Is there any reason to believe the 49ers are not going to shred the Cowboys on the ground?
No, I think Kyle Shanahan has a lot of common sense in him. I mean, besides just looking at the tape and looking what they've done in previous matchups, this is going to be Mason, this is going to be Garendo, this is going to be 30 to 40 times, and if they can't stop it, that's all they're going to do because Kyle knows the situation of his team. All right, they're beat up. A lot of their stars are out. They're going in, they win this one, they hit the bye week and heal up, and then it's ready for this second push. That's what it's going to be. He's going to try and get this win as simply as possible, run the football, play action pass, easy for Purdy, nothing complex, and get out of there. Because Dallas, it's about who is suiting up on defense. Is Bland, is Kendricks, is Parsons, who's not going to be there? I mean, it's just, and they're coming off a bye, and they're supposed to be rested up, but still, they're missing a lot of key players. So it's common sense formula for Kyle Shanahan in running this football, Greeny.
Yeah, Micah Parsons hasn't practiced this week. Deron Bland hasn't practiced this week. They could practice today and play, but also maybe not. And even if they do, they might be diminished. Earlier this week, making the picks, right? Earlier this week, Green's taking the Cowboys out.
I'll tell you what, no one would be more surprised than me if I'm right here. But I always go the other way. Whenever, and it generally works, whenever everyone thinks something is going to happen, it generally doesn't.
I was thinking about it. You get the picks, you're making the picks for all the games, and I'm thinking to myself, Debo was in the hospital with pneumonia, Kittle has a foot thing, but Debo got in a limited practice yesterday, and so did Kittle. And if they have those guys, they're going to have too much, I think, for an undermanned Cowboys defense and a Cowboys team that can't run the ball. I just think it's a bad matchup.
The last 3 games, they've handed the football off 111 times, 452 yards, 5 tutties. They're going to give the football to Jordan Mason. They're going to give the football to Garendo. And if you watch this team, the more they've had to put it on Brock Purdy's shoulders, the more mistakes we've seen from the past game. Kyle Shanahan understands it's not about style points. It's about winning on the